Hi there. Happy Thursday. This is the Caregivers Bakery, and I am CJ Golden.
Hi, and I'm Wendy Green, and this is your time to sit back and relax with us as we talk to caregivers about things that they have learned that help them, and we're just happy to have everybody here.
That's cool. It's
So
cool.
how you doing, CJ?
I'm good. I'm good. We are in our vacation house in Vermont, and I ran around all morning trying to find a spot that would allow me internet that works. I'm now in the kitchen, which is not where I should be, and I've told the dog and Joe and our grandson to it's a broadcast studio now. It's no longer a kitchen in Vermont.
That's right. Well, we're glad you're here. I'm in a little bit of pain today.
Oh,
Yeah, I was, being superhero this weekend and doing a little yard work and really lifting, well, struggling to actually move, didn't even lift these gigantic bags of organic soil. And then my back locked. And then it was like a struggle to get to the chair and a struggle to sit in the chair and a struggle to get up out of the chair. And so if you see me like wiggling a little bit, it's because I have aggravated my sciatica. So, but
oh.
like, why do we do this to ourselves? Like, oh, I could do anything.
Why? Because I look in the mirror when I'm putting on my makeup and saying, wow, how come a 35-year-old has all those wrinkles? My mother used to say, I feel young, and she called her girlfriends, and I used to think how ridiculous. And here I am with my yellow nail polish and my magenta
Purple
streak,
hair.
and because it's fun, but I know that the years are marching on. I bought a birthday card recently for my brother, who
Happy
is
birthday
going to
to
be
your brother.
86. Happy birthday, Norm. And the card said, remember when we were kids and we couldn't wait to get older? And inside it says, what the hell were we thinking?
I know, right? Yeah,
But, it is what it is. And we know, particularly those of us who are in the world of caregiving, know how fortunate we are to be able to go out in the garden and at least try to lift something and still be here.
Yes, and I think we also need to recognize when we can't do it ourselves and not hurt ourselves like I did, so that then it's harder to help somebody else when you're hurting. So
Yeah, exactly.
anyway, let's talk about the Caregivers Bakery. CJ, can you tell people how they can get the recipe ahead of time? Tell them about our upcoming sweet spot too. That's really going to be good.
The recipe, which I have sitting right here, Dawn Sully Pyle's recipe for today. If you had emailed me, as many of you have, at author cjgolden at gmail.com, if you had emailed me prior to today, you would have received the recipe. You could have been making it at the same time that Wendy and I were making it last night or whenever, and you could be joining the tasting party with us at the end of the show. So remember that. Please do that. You're also helping create a community. Email me. We have your name. We know who you are. We know you're part of the community, and that's so important. As for the sweet spot, that is our show that occurs. It's so sweet. The third Wednesday of every month. This month, April 21st, next Wednesday, you'll be seeing Kate Washington again, the author of Already Toast,
Right.
Caregiving and Burnout in America. And she is going to be discussing with us that which we already know, but we need to know more of the lack of societal backing and funding for home caregivers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great conversation with
it's going to be
her.
wonderful. And all you need to do is go to the link. I sent the link to a couple of you, and it didn't work. Go to our Facebook page, the Caregivers Bakery, and you'll see the event right there, the sweet spot. click on the picture that says a sweet spot, and you'll be given the link to register. You need
You
to
have to register.
To register in order to participate.
Yeah. So do that. I mean, I really think it's going to be a great conversation.
It is. It is.
So you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Our friend Dawn is ready to come on and talk to us.
Oh,
so
cool.
Why don't you introduce her and I will bring her on.
There she is. That's Dawn Sully Pyle. And Dawn is, Dawn followed a 35-year career in education. She followed that by creating her own business, Dawn Sully Pyle, MACPCC. I love all those letters. She's enjoyed, I like this too, she's enjoyed the adventure of being led along a circuitous path in life. And that's something to enjoy. But along that path, she presented a presentation. She put together a presentation for caregivers called Reimagine Your Role, Restore Your Soul. Professional caregiving reframed to prevent burnout and compassion fatigue. She was living in Atlanta at the time, and she presented at various local hospitals, lunch and learns, and the participants got CEOs.
CEUs.
Since then, CEUs. Well, not CEOs. Right. Of course not. CEUs. Thank you. While having moved on from that specific field and that specific role, Dawn's big picture of caregiving remains part of her core, and it's interwoven into her Master of Arts in Ministry. She is a certified professional co-active coach, completing a leadership program through the same coaching organization. Dawn believes, and I agree with her, that we give and receive caregiving every day, all through our lives. And she looks forward to sharing a potpourri of professional and perspectives with you, with us.
Thank you. Hey, Dawn.
Welcome.
Hey, I am so glad to be here. And Wendy, I'm just getting to know you. And CJ and I have had numerous conversations, and I am just so, I just treasure our relationship and the fact that maybe someday CJ and I will still do a presentation together on caregiving, because that's been a little bit of a dream. So CJ, you took the words right out of my mouth that I was going to begin with, and that is that there are so many perspectives around caregiving. And while I spoke mostly to professional caregivers when I was in Atlanta, I really have framed the conversation today around, it can be professional caregivers, but also a person who is in their home, who is doing caregiving with a family member, perhaps. And you know, I've been thinking a lot over time about how the minute we were born, we were cared for. In that it was a delivery room, a home birth, someone was there who began our journey of being cared for. And we also began the journey of caring for others. And so while we think of caregiving often, and I think in a more contemporary time, in isolation as a word, oh, now I'm a caregiver, I've just become a caregiver. Caregiving is really an integral part of our lives. I worked with children, as you said, for 35 years, and I would watch the 3-year-olds, the 3-year-old caregiver, right? The automatic caregiving response, or the recipient of a 3-year-old coming up to that child who needed some caregiving and giving them care. And we didn't use the word, we didn't say, oh, you're a caregiver with young children, but it begins that young. And I think it's really important to reflect when we come in, particularly to the more intense situations of caregiving or the intense callings to caregiving. It is helpful to reflect back on all of the hundreds and thousands of ways that we have given and received it in the course of our own lives. And I want to especially honor in this conversation those who are in the, what I think of as intense caregiving places, where it is daily. My experiences with caregiving in specific ways happen to be more at intervals, but I have many friends where caregiving is, I don't love the term, but I'll use it for the purpose of the conversation. It's 24/7. It is all the time that they are on behalf of giving care to someone else. And I have tremendous honor and respect for those who are in those spaces.
So Dawn, let me just ask you. So your initial perception started with observing the kids and recognizing how they care for each other. Did the Masters of Divinity give you another perspective on caregiving in general?
Well, I think it's always been kind of ingrained in me, the attraction to it. And so the Master of Arts in Ministry, really gave me more opportunity to think about how is that practiced? How are we with others? In a story that I'm going to tell, it ties into my role as a Stephen minister for a number of years. And so, yes, that absolutely has fed my soul in terms of being a caregiver. Yeah. And I want to say that caregiving is not just the outward giving, the outward presence. Caregiving is what is also happening, who we are as caregivers. It's happening inside of us. It's happening in our emotions. It's happening in our perceptions of ourselves. It's happening in our mindsets. And so I want to start with a story as to where I really go back and reflect on where did the reimagining for me come from, and reimagining the role. And it was sitting on the sofa in my childhood home. I can be there in a nanosecond. I can be there right now, sitting on that sofa. And my mom was sitting in her chair to the left, and she lived to be 100. And so part of the caregiving role was being with her in declining years, my sister bearing the brunt of that. But I was up visiting, sitting on the sofa, hearing a story yet again for maybe the 15th time, maybe the 20th, maybe the 100th, I don't know. And I was sitting there listening halfway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of going into the daughter mode, wanting to say, Mom, I've heard that story so many times. But, whether it was the ministry, whether it was Stephen ministry, it stopped me in that moment. And I remember thinking to myself, who do I want to be right now?
Good question.
Who do I want to be? And I said, I want to be a Stephen minister, because as a Stephen minister, I went into the homes of elderly people and was a visitor to them for a period of time. And I listened to their stories, and I was so taken with the stories and was fully present listening. And it was like, that's where I want to be right now. I am reimagining my role from kind of a caregiving daughter to a Stephen minister. And it gave me a different persona. It brought me back into her presence. And it actually, I remember in that moment, it allowed me to hear the story differently, even though I had heard it multiple times before. And so in the reimagining of my role, I felt this deep restoration of my soul. It almost makes me teary, right?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Yes.
So I want to take you to, if you're willing to go with me, on a little journey.
Sure.
And everybody who is listening, who I can't see.
I'm with you.
Who knows who's out there, right? But I want to take you on a little journey. And this is something that I am developing as part of my life purpose. I think we have multiple purposes. So I want to take you on a journey to a well. I want you in your mind to imagine a well anywhere in the world. What does it look like? What does it feel like if you travel up to the well? And we are going to go today to the well of reimagination. Why am I taking you to the well of reimagination? Because we imagine so many things that are going to happen, that we think are going to happen, that stories of who we think we are, that when we reimagine them, when we dip into the nourishment, the refreshment, the restoration of going to the well with a dipper or a pail and pull up what wells that are sustenance will give to us, we can reimagine those stories. And I want to start with a couple of examples because I think these are so just part of caregiving. They just come with the territory, and I imagine, well, I'm imagining, right? Maybe I'll have to imagine. I imagine everybody on the call can relate to these stories. One is, I'm coming to the well. It's a beautiful well, really peaceful. And sometimes I come to the well by myself, and sometimes I come with others. And it's a gathering spot, a space that we can share as a community. Caregivers Bakery is a well. It's a gathering space. So I'm imagining how it should have been, or how it was with someone to whom I am related. And I think of my daughter who was born with a birth defect. And at that time, the potential was that she would not walk without braces or crutches for the rest of her life. And many people couldn't imagine that that was how it was meant to be. I imagined, I think in going to the well, I reimagined that story to see her as perfect.
And in many ways, she was and is perfect.
Yeah.
She, you know, I remember at the time I said, if she can't walk, she has other gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And so we come with our stories. My father-in-law went through Alzheimer's. And with Alzheimer's, we talk about the person we've lost.
Mhm.
It's a journey. Alzheimer's is a journey, and I've been through it at a time when it really is just beginning to come onto the radar screen. And when I reimagine that perspective, I saw a man who's so connected to children's stories. And the reimagining brings into our space the wholeness, rather than how it should have been for us. But right now, as I dip into that well, a whole new perspective comes up.
If we as caregivers, many of us are very quick to imagine ourselves as under duress, running around, taking care, losing our lives. I want my life back. Losing our sense of selves. We could go to that well and reimagine the whole spiritual person that we are, who is fortunate enough to have the skills to care for someone, to have someone that we love enough that we want to care for. Reimagining.
CJ, you just took my second example right out of my mouth. See, this is why we connect, right? So yeah, I mean, that reimagining of adding on to what you said, the reimagining of or the imagining, I'm not enough. I can't do this well. And we go to the well, or I'm not doing enough, and we go to the well, and for this one, I think we have to put a pail in, not just a dipper, right? And we put a pail in, and we start pulling it up in the old-fashioned wells, winding the
Yeah.
whatever it was. And as we pull that pail up and see what's there, oh, wow, I see my strengths. Wow, I see all that I am in my own individual self that I thought I had lost, that I don't remember in a moment of being called into caregiving. I'm there, I'm still there. It reaffirms me.
Mm-hmm.
I see the thank yous that have been given to me by the person I'm caring for that I tend to forget when things get tough. I see it in their eyes if they can't speak, or a gesture, or the words, hear the words. One of the things my mom always said was thank you. I can hear it as I talk to you now, the thank yous. When we were doing the messy jobs. And also that perfect doesn't exist. In that pail I've pulled up, it's overflowing with, it's okay, perfect doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
I don't have to be perfect for this person. And I think of professional caregivers, many of whom I spoke with, who were taking care of multiple people a day and having that same drain, that same, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And to go and be refreshed and renewed and realize that we are who we are, just as whole as the person we're caring for.
It's a beautiful message, Dawn, and
It
the way
really
you
is.
tell it with story, it just resonates so
Yes,
much.
it's just so meaningful.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a story that has really nothing to do with caregiving? And I will tell it very, very quickly. It is a song, a country song. I don't remember who wrote it. I don't remember who sings it. Johnny Cash, maybe. But it's a little boy who's outside by himself with a bat and a ball, and he throws up the ball, and he goes to hit it, and he misses. And he throws up the ball, and he goes to hit it, and he misses. And he throws up the ball, and he goes to hit it, and he misses. And then Mommy calls him in for dinner. And as he's walking into dinner, he says, "Wow, I'm the best pitcher there is."
Oh, that's great perspective. That's right. Yeah.
Well, and see what I love about this in this particular well and any of them. I mean, there's the well of wonder, there's the well of generosity. There are all kinds of wells that I'm playing with as part of a new part of my life. And we can go to this well of reimagining anytime for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about it for the very specific reason of caregiving. But that well is always, always, always there.
Always there.
And sometimes we just need a minute because many caregivers don't have longer than a minute, right?
Yeah.
You go to the well when you go to the bathroom, right? You can make a cup of tea and go to the well, but it is always, always there.
Dawn, you're wonderful.
You are wonderful.
Wendy, you have something to say, to add?
Well, I was wondering if we could go to the well of chocolate cake.
You think? You think? Oh, wait a minute. Is your hunk bigger than my hunk? My grandson is here with us, he's a master chef and cook, and he helped me make this cake, although it certainly didn't need any help. It's fabulous. Dawn, what is it about this cake, this chocolate cake, that you wanted to bring it to us?
Well, that story changed. Everything changed for today about what I was originally going to say. Everything.
We'll have to have you back again. That's it.
I love it. Okay, so I picked this recipe because it's easy.
It is easy.
It is so easy that if you are in a caregiving space where you don't have time, you can even ask a person to help you put it together because there's no mistake in this recipe. So I picked it because it was easy. However, the cake had a message for me.
Okay.
And hear this.
I made the cake last night. I don't bake very often, so I don't have a few of the right ingredients to grease the pan properly. And I took the cake out. I did it in a bundt pan. And when I turned it upside down to put it on the plate, only 3/4 of the cake came out of the pan, and 1/4 was still stuck in. The most beautiful design at the top, of course, was still stuck in the pan. And I stood there and I looked at the cake, and I'm going to read to you exactly what I said to the cake.
Okay.
You are the perfect example of caregiving and the perfect last word for tomorrow. Because it was if the cake knew that 3/4 of the time we might get it right, and 1/4 of the time it's really messy and it's imperfect. And the caregiving journey can be both harrowing and precious. And this cake just reminded me, it was like, I don't want to come out perfect. It still tastes just as good.
It's fabulous.
And my 94-year-old neighbor is going to get most of it.
Yeah, mine is going in the freezer. I cut it into pieces, and I'll put it individual in the freezer.
It's like well, I got to tell you, it's like the top. I didn't even ice it. I think you didn't either. It's like eating this fabulous brownie with chocolate chunks, and it's yay! Oh my God. Wendy, please.
Yeah.
So
let me share Dawn's information, and let me just say, as I share her website, that Dawn also has a book out for those over 55, and a kind of reimagining and the conversations around being over 55. And so that's what you'll see when you first go to her website. But there's also a lot of information on there, and it's a great way to reach out to her and talk to her about some of what the beautiful things that she told us today. So DawnSullyPile.com.
And you can email me at dawn@dawnsullypile.com.
Ah, okay. Perfect. Dawn, thank you.
Thank you for
being here with us.
Oh my goodness. You were wonderful.
You're gorgeous. Everything about your being is beautiful.
Yeah.
And inspirational.
Thank you.
And that's why we thank you. Meanwhile, next week, we do have a next week. Oh, by the way, I will be posting the recipe, the chocolate cake recipe on our Facebook page today. And so you'll have that. Don't forget, though, folks, community, caregivers, bakers, community. If you email me, I'll send you the recipe in advance. You could have been making it with us last night. We could have had a baking party. Next week, Elaine Barlin. Mm-hmm. Elaine Barlin is a woman who was a caregiver for her husband, Mel, for more than 4 years. Major caregiver. What kept her going, and she's not a writer per se, but she writes beautifully. What kept her going and alive and put together was the blogs that she sent out. And she will share with us her blogs, how the blogging helped, and blog sites that caregivers can go to and plop their thinking and thoughts down on and read other people's blogs. And
join us for the sweet spot. Yeah, join us for the sweet spot.
Oh, please. April 21st, next Wednesday, less than a week away, Kate, Washington. We got so many wonderful comments when people first met Kate a few weeks ago on the Caregivers Bakery. Wow, this is great. I love us.
Yeah.
I love our community. Dawn, you're wonderful. Wendy, you're the
Yeah.
best. You're the best.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
No, thank you, Dawn. Thank you,
You're welcome.
CJ.
You're welcome.
I'm Wendy
And
Green, as I said.
I'm
And
CJ Golden. And remember, please, that we understand that caregiving is not a piece of cake. Not. So let us help you find the sweet spots. And thank you.
thanks.
Bye.
Thanks,
I'm gonna